Detroit Free Press, February 13th, 1850. In this small column of worn paper, one of the most powerful voices in American history, Frederic Douglass, delivered a challenge that shook polite society to its core. He said, "Let the Union be dissolved. I wish to see it dissolved at once. It is a union of the white people of this country that perpetuates slavery." In 1850, the nation stood on the edge. Congress was debating the Compromise of 1850, and the new fugitive slave law would soon force free states to return escaped slaves to bondage. For many abolitionists, it felt like the country had betrayed its own Declaration of Independence. Douglass's words, printed here in Detroit, carried more than anger, they carried despair. "Talk to me of the love of liberty of your Washingtons and Jeffersons," he said. They wrote of liberty with one hand, and with the other they clutched their brother by the throat. These words were never idle rage. They were the cry of a man who had lived slavery, pleading for a moral reckoning, even if it meant tearing apart the Union itself. Later, Douglass would refine his views, arguing that preserving the Union could be the path to freeing the enslaved, but in that moment, 1850, the wound was too deep, the hypocrisy too raw. A single newspaper, a single voice, still echoing, asking every generation the same question: what is a union worth if it demands injustice to survive? Now I'd like to share with you a short video that shows how I came upon this article that I just shared with you. And it's kind of interesting because I found a series of Detroit newspapers from 1843 through 1852. Now, there's only about 25, but they're fascinating. And following right now is a video showing those individual newspapers to you. All right, I love you all. Be on the other side of that monitor, and hope you enjoy this next little video, and I'll talk to you soon. God bless. Love you all. Later. Well, hello, my dear friends. I am wearing my Detroit hat today for a very special reason, because I have something so cool that I want to share with you. It was a very exciting find for me, and this was about 2 weeks ago. My sister Roseanne and David and I went to a couple of estate sales, and the one estate sale was all antiques, really, really nice stuff, and beautiful stoneware. And though reasonably priced, it was still way out of my range of being able to purchase something of that nature. But underneath one of the tables, I spotted a small stack of newspapers. And so I got down on the floor, pulled them out, and was really, well, there was a price sticker on them for $10 for the whole lot, which I think there was 15 or 20 altogether. Well, I thought, wow, that's an amazing price, because as I looked at these papers, there were, these were very, very cool. Let me show you. There was there were some of the Detroit Daily Advertisers from 1843, the Detroit Free Press from 1850s, and then the Detroit Daily Free Press, which is the same as the Detroit Free Press, and these were from 1852. There were some more recent papers from the 1930s and that, but these really caught my attention. So the price sticker, as I said, was $10, and I thought, whoa, no way I'm going to pass these babies up. So I took them up to the lady who was collecting the money, and she said, it's late, tomorrow's going to be a half price sale. She said, so I'm going to give these to you for half price. So I got them for $5. $5. Now, looking at them monetarily, they're anywhere from $10 to $15 a piece. But my interest in them is historic. And there's some really awesome things in here that I'm going to show you in a minute. The steamship ads, the railroad ads, the papers about abolition, being pre Civil War. There's a lot in there about the abolitionist movement. I think one thing I see with myself is when I think of the Civil War, I usually think of it in a more limited space range, like starting as soon as Lincoln took office. Well, no, there was a lot of pre-stuff that happened. And these papers are like an on-the-spot account of what the newspapers in Detroit and the people in Detroit were thinking about that movement at that particular time. So there's some cool stuff in there. So I'm gonna shut my yap, and I'm gonna show you some of the things in these papers. And again, this was a treasure trove to me. This was as exciting as anything I could find out on the field, and certainly gave me that same rush that I get when I find something extremely unique and interesting on the field. So again, I'll shut up. Let's take a look. Now let's take a look at some of those ads that are in here. There's this one is, I love the layout of it. It's the Raymond and Nall, N-A-L-L, dealers in dry goods, carpeting, floor oil, cloth, feathers, paper, engravings, furnishings, goods, all kinds of things. And then right below that, CBP's and Company, dry goods, carpeting, floor table, and oilcloths. So very cool ad there. Some of the services that were available in 1850. They're in Detroit on the front page. Most of the front page of these papers is advertising, and you don't get to news until you get to the inside of the first page. And basically the rest of it's advertising after that. It's one large sheet that is printed, folded over, so there's 4 pages actually printed on both sides. Here's one for the Detroit and Toledo 1850 steamboat John Hollister. And before that, I mean right after that, Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids Daily Telegraph line of stages. I mean, the transportation ads are interesting in here. There's a Michigan Central Railroad summer arrangement. One thing you'll notice about the paper as you look at it too, for its age, it is in very good condition. There were some later papers in this lot from the 1920s and 1930s, and that paper was in very poor shape. But if you look at this paper, it's in really good condition, its age notwithstanding. All right, now let's switch to the Detroit Daily Advertiser. This one from June 3rd, 1843. What was that, 67 years after the American Revolution? It's pretty cool when you look at it that way. Here's a really neat ad. Miller and Core Express for Detroit, Michigan, Chicago, and intermediate ports commencing on Monday, March 13th, 1843. And it has these other destinations of Ashtabula, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, Huron, Sandusky, Toledo, Monroe, Detroit, Pontiac, of course, Ypsilanti, and many other areas on there. Also very interesting in this ad is an ad for the daguerreotypes, a photographer. Secure the shadow ere the substance decay. Okay, let me read that over. Secure the shadow ere the substance decay. Correct daguerreotype miniatures taken at number 117 Jefferson Avenue, Detroit, Michigan. Then again, there's all kinds of ads for steamships. This one, Port Huron and Maumee, the steamboat Macomb will leave Detroit for Maumee on Wednesday, the 31st of May at 8, after which he will run regularly between Menominee and Port Huron as follows, and so on. So some very fascinating ads in this one too throughout. I noticed one thing, and I'm not going to look at those with you today, but there were many small news stories about shipwrecks in Lake Huron, there by down by Detroit. So we'll look at those another time. Why I found this as exciting as I did, as any history or prehistory addict would agree that these are interesting papers, even if you're not from Detroit, Michigan. They are like a brief, momentary hop, if you will, back through time to see what was happening at that point in 1843, 67 years, hence from the American Revolution, so it wasn't very long there. The Detroit News, the Detroit Free Press began in 1831. It is the longest published, I think, newspaper here in Michigan, and it certainly was the first daily published here in Michigan. So that's pretty cool. And I hope you enjoy taking a look at these. I'm going to be doing some future videos pertaining to those eyelashes. I just cut them, but they always stick down there. Have you noticed that? At any rate, there's a lot of information in these newspapers, fascinating material about the, as I mentioned at the beginning, the abolitionist movement, the shipwrecks, and other things that were going on at the time. So we're going to look a little bit more deeply at this. This was at a time when the Democratic Party was already in existence. That started in 1828. These papers have a lot in them about the Whig Party. For those who didn't know, yes, there was the Democratic Party, there was the Whig Party, and then later there was the Republican Party. So anyways, we'll take a look at that later. I hope you enjoyed this, and I love you all on the other side of that monitor. God bless you, and if you're in Detroit, hold your head up proud, because you have an amazing and long history. God bless.